I'm speaking into the Blue Yeti. The Blue Yeti is a USB condenser microphone. It has 3 condenser capsules inside that allows it to record in 4 different polar patterns. Cardioid picks up sound mostly from the front. Omnidirectional picks up sound from all sides. Bidirectional picks up sound from the front and the back. And stereo separates the audio into 2 different channels. So what you would hear in the left speaker would be a little bit different than what you would hear in the right. I bought my Blue Yeti for $130. To see its current pricing, I have an Amazon link in the description. Now I'm speaking into the Blue Snowball. This is also a USB condenser microphone. It has 2 condenser capsules inside. On the back there is a switch that lets you go between 3 different settings. The first setting is cardioid. The second setting is also cardioid, but it applies a negative 10 decibel gain. The third setting is omnidirectional. I bought the Blue Snowball for $70 and I have an Amazon link to see its current pricing in the description. Now I'll switch over to the Blue Snowball iCE. The Blue Snowball iCE is, yet again, a USB condenser microphone. This one only has 1 condenser capsule and it only records in cardioid. It is very similar to the original Blue Snowball. Really quickly, the only differences are really it doesn't have that switch on the back to switch between the negative 10 boost and the omnidirectional setting. The stand is a little bit smaller and flimsier, but other than that, they sound pretty much the same and they're pretty much the same microphone. I bought the Blue Snowball iCE for $40, a lot cheaper than I got the original Blue Snowball for, but again, link to current price in the description. Now back to the Blue Yeti while I go over the build quality of each mic. The Blue Yeti is the tallest of these microphones at just over 11.5 inches with the stand. It's made of metal, heavier than the other two, and has a very solid and sturdy stand. Though I will say the adjustment mechanism of the Blue Yeti is a little bit suspect. It only goes up and down, and when you unscrew it from the stand, it's really easy to lose a lot of those small parts, especially if you're like me and you have to take it in and out of the stand a lot. Some physical additions that the Blue Yeti has that neither the Snowball or Snowball iCE has are a headphone jack for monitoring your audio, a headphone volume knob, a mute button that flashes red when it's muted and just stays lit when it's active, a gain knob, and a polar pattern dial with 4 different polar patterns that you can switch on the back. Now I'm speaking into the Blue Snowball. The Blue Snowball gets almost as high as the Blue Yeti at about 10.5 inches with the stand fully extended. You can shrink it down a little bit also. The stand and the body are made of plastic and the ball can be shifted sideways or up and down. Now I can't speak to the other colors, but the gloss black version that I got is an absolute fingerprint magnet. It looks super sick right out the box, but just the act of twisting it onto the stand that it comes with puts a ton of fingerprints on it and honestly looks really unsightly. The stand is far less stable than the Blue Yetis, but as long as you're not bumping into it, should be okay. Now talking into the Snowball iCE, the Blue Snowball iCE gets up to about 8 inches with the stand. The stand is not adjustable and it is a bit creaky. It's the least sturdy of all of these. But again, other than the stand and the lack of the switch on the back, it is physically identical to the Blue Snowball original. They both have a diameter of 4 inches, same size. Each of these microphones has 5 8-inch threading to screw it onto a boom arm. So right now I have the Blue Snowball iCE on a boom arm right now, and then the other 2 I just have on a stack of books so that I can get them high enough to be in frame. So here's a quick table that I made summarizing the differences between these 3 microphones. All right, now we're back on the Blue Yeti. Now that you have a good idea of the tone of each mic for general spoken word, in this performance section, I'll be demonstrating each mic in terms of polar pattern, proximity effect and distance testing, plosives, sibilance, background noise, and music. Kind of like podcastage. Right now I have the Blue Yeti set to cardioid mode. The idea is if I talk to the side of the microphone, one side, other side, or the rear, it's not going to pick up as much of my voice as if I speak into the front. Now I'm speaking into the Blue Yeti omnidirectional. So switching up sides to the side of the microphone and then the other side, and now speaking to the back of the microphone. The idea is that it should be picking up my sound pretty evenly throughout the entire 360-degree orbit. Now we have bidirectional. This is for interviews. This is me speaking to the front. This is the side, one side. This is the other side. And this will be me speaking to the back. So it should be able to pick up back and the front both pretty well, and then not as much on the sides. Now I have the Blue Yeti in stereo. It's supposed to pick up sound from the front and both sides, not as much from the rear, but it's supposed to separate the audio into 2 different channels. So I'm going to do like this. These make different sounds and they should sound different depending on which side of your earbud you have them in. Here we have the Blue Snowball. Speaking to the front of this microphone, it's at the cardioid polar pattern. Switching over to one side, there's actually not even a grill on this side or on this side, but there's a grill in the back. So speaking to the back, but it's still on cardioid. So that's what it sounds like. Let's switch it over to the -10 boost. So this is what the device will sound like. Just cardioid. It's, got it down. -10, setting number 2. And this is the Blue Snowball. And now this is omnidirectional. And I'm really interested in how this is going to sound because, like I said, going to the side, there's no grill on this side. And there's no grill on this side either. But switching over to the back, there is a little bit of space for sound to actually go in. So yeah, this is an omnidirectional test of the Blue Snowball. And of course, the Blue Snowball iCE only records in cardioid. So switching up to the side of the microphone or speaking to the back, it shouldn't be able to pick up my voice nearly as clearly as the front. This is the Blue Snowball iCE. Speaking into the Blue Snowball, the omnidirectional polar pattern of both the Blue Snowball and Blue Yeti creates a significant bass drop-off. So let me go ahead and switch to omnidirectional on the Snowball right now. You should be able to hear this now. This effect is most prominent on the Snowball because it already does lack bass, so it just makes it sound overall very tinny. I'm on the Blue Yeti again. Now, I don't really have a setup that requires stereo or bidirectional on the Blue Yeti, but listening to them back in the makeshift test that I did, they do work pretty well. Now, speaking into the Snowball iCE, with all 3 of these microphones, I think that cardioid is going to be what the overwhelming majority of people will need only. And for that reason, the Blue Snowball iCE and the Blue Snowball are going to sound identical for the rest of the test because I'm going to put them on cardioid. But just to show that I'm not lying, I will be recording with both of the microphones and then letting you listen to both of them in succession for each test. Now I am testing the proximity effect of the Blue Yeti. I'm about 1 inch away from the microphone, and this is what it will sound like 1 inch away from the Blue Yeti. Farther back, I'm about 1 foot away from the Blue Yeti. This is what this device will sound like. This is a normal speaking distance for a lot of people. I like to be a little bit closer, but this is 1 foot away from the Blue Yeti. Now I'm standing about 2.5 feet away from the Blue Yeti. And this is what this device will sound like at this distance. Proximity effect test with the Blue Snowball. And right now I have it on its polar pattern number 1. This is cardioid. Moving back a bit, now I'm about 1 foot away from the Blue Snowball. This is what this device will sound like if I'm back here. About 2.5 feet away from the Blue Snowball, same settings as before. This is the Blue Snowball, 2.5 feet away. Proximity effect test on the Blue Snowball iCE. And right now I'm about 1 inch away from this device. 1 foot away from the Blue Snowball iCE. This is what this device will sound like 1 foot away. 2.5 feet away from the Blue Snowball iCE. Good evening, Twitter. The Blue Yeti has the strongest proximity effect, which is the increased bass response that you get when you speak really close to the microphone. It also retains its clarity up close, whereas speaking into the Blue Snowball right now, when you get really close to this microphone, you can kind of hear that breath sound, like your breath hitting the diaphragm of the microphone, which causes a little bit of distortion. Blue Yeti, plosive rejection. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. Blue Snowball. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. Snowball iCE. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. When I specifically tried to plosive these microphones, all 3 of them held up quite well. I don't think a pop filter, which I do have one by the way, I don't think it's absolutely required when you're speaking at a normal distance, anywhere from like 2 inches to like 5 inches away. But yeah, a pop filter up close will help the Snowball and Snowball iCE. Blue Yeti, she sells seashells on the seashore. Blue Snowball, she sells seashells on the seashore. Snowball iCE, she sells seashells on the seashore. The Blue Yeti has significant sibilance compared to most of the microphones I've tested. I've tested a bunch of different microphones. Sibilance is that sound that you get when you say S's and the soft C sound, that really sharp sound. But the Snowball and Snowball iCE are just super piercing with sibilance when you talk up close. And the closer you are, the more prominent it is. Now I'll be quiet so that you can hear the ambient noise picked up by all of these devices. This is not a sound treated room, and I have a PC fan that is below me. So let's listen. Now I'm speaking into the Blue Yeti while typing on a keyboard so we can hear how much of the keyboard it picks up versus how much my voice. And this is the Blue Yeti right now. It's not quite on my desk. It's like on a stack of books so that I can get it up here. But yeah, this is what it'll sound like. Keyboard typing test on the Blue Snowball. And this is also on the same stack of books so that we can hear how much my voice it picks up. First, how much of the keys? And yeah, this is the Blue Snowball. It's at its polar pattern number 1, so that's just cardioid. And the Blue Yeti was also on cardioid. Now speaking to the Blue Snowball iCE. Now this one's really interesting because I'm typing behind it, but I also have it on a boom arm, but the boom arm is attached to my desk. So does that make any difference? Well, we'll find out. This is the Blue Snowball iCE. Now the Blue Yeti, Blue Snowball, and Blue Snowball iCE all pick up a ton of background noise. And the Blue Snowball iCE right now is actually positioned closest to my PC, which I do have a PC fan. This is not a sound treated room. I don't have any sound panels or anything like that. The window is closed though. But yeah, my computer fan, you can hear it really loud in here. You could hear cars driving by while I was doing my music test, even though the window's closed. You can even barely hear it like in real life, but these microphones, they all pick it up really well. And the number one negative thing that I've heard about the Blue Yeti, and really all condenser microphones, but especially the Blue Yeti and the Blue Snowball and Snowball iCE both have the exact same problem, is that they pick up so much ambient room noise. The thing is, it's not actually a design flaw. The microphones are functioning as intended. They're condenser microphones that are supposed to pick up a lot of detailed, textured sound. But the problem is they end up picking up a lot of sound that you don't want, which is honestly the reason that I stopped recording with condenser microphones. If someone's playing loud music outside, which happens a lot in the backyard, it's like, oh, well, I guess I can't record now. Someone's making a lot of noise upstairs. Somebody has the TV on really loud. There's a lawnmower going. Guess I can't record now. So that was really just driving me crazy. So I don't really record with condenser microphones anymore. So if background noise is a concern for you, then stick around for the verdict section of this review. Now here is a music test. Unfortunately, I've never actually played an instrument in my life, but I borrowed someone's keyboard and decided I would just record myself practicing. So just for the purpose of this review. Either way, at least you'll get to hear the tone of each of these microphones. Now, I've also linked some footage of a musician that I hired recording music over the Blue Yeti, but I wasn't able to get them to record over the Snowball and the Snowball iCE, but I do have that linked in the description. From what I could hear, the Blue Yeti is clearer than the Snowball and Snowball iCE. The Snowball and Snowball iCE both sound a bit muffled, and when you hold a note, you can really hear it lingering in the air on the Blue Yeti compared to the other two. And just like in spoken word, the lower notes are a lot fuller on the Blue Yeti. Okay, so my verdict is going to be split into two different sections. First is if you've already narrowed your choice down to one of these 3 mics or 2 out of the 3. And the second part is my recommendation, considering that I've been testing about a dozen of the most popular mics lately. And if you include all of those, which one should you buy? So for the first part, the Blue Yeti is clearly the best microphone here. It's the winner easily. It has a much fuller sound. The Snowball and Snowball iCE have much more of a bass drop off. It also has less sibilance. It is actually kind of sharp compared to some of the other microphones I have, but it's not as piercing as the Snowball and Snowball iCE. The Blue Yeti has a stronger proximity effect, but it's not like overpowering like some other dynamic microphones like the Siren Elite. And it's mostly flat frequency response, and the fact that it picks up so much detail makes it really good for music. So if you have the cash, Blue Yeti is the best. Now as for the Snowball versus the Snowball iCE. On the cardioid polar pattern, they sound pretty much exactly the same. The only difference I would say is that the Snowball iCE is a little bit quieter, so I had to boost the gain a little bit higher when I was doing the music test to get them all like even. And interestingly, Windows actually just recognizes both of these microphones, the Snowball and Snowball iCE, as Blue Snowball when you plug them in. So unless you have a specific need for the omnidirectional polar pattern, or you want that 2.5 extra inches longer stand, then the original Snowball is not worth the price increase over the Blue Snowball iCE. So the Blue Snowball iCE is an excellent budget option. Now for part 2. Having tested a bunch of mics lately, I can say that if you're interested in the Blue Yeti, it really performs its best when you're recording music or if you're in a sound treated environment like a studio booth. Again, its biggest strength is how much detailed sound it picks up, but it's also its biggest weakness. If you're doing basic stuff like Twitch streaming, YouTube videos, conference calls, things like that, it just picks up way too much sound and it's really distracting. So for home use, I would recommend a dynamic microphone. A great dynamic microphone is the Samson Q2U. It has a very similar sound to the Blue Yeti, but being a dynamic microphone, it has very good off-axis rejection. So if you have sound coming from the sides or from the back, it's going to reject it a lot more than the Blue Yeti, and it's just less sensitive to ambient noise in general. And I got this one for way cheaper than the Blue Yeti. I got this for 70 bucks. So with a similar tone to the Blue Yeti, I think for just like home use, this is probably a better option than the Blue Yeti. But for music, I do definitely give the edge to the Blue Yeti. It picks up really good detail sound. Now, as for budget options, the Blue Snowball iCE is a really good choice for the price, but I've actually been enjoying using this. This is the Fifine K669B. There's also a K669. The regular is just rose colored, but they're the same. It sounds a lot more like the Blue Yeti, the overall tone. It's not quite as clear as that microphone. And I have compared the K669B to the Blue Yeti. It doesn't have the same bass drop off as a Snowball iCE, and that's why I like that microphone. Links to all of the devices that I've mentioned are in the description.